what I've heard have taken a ton of time, like for an individual to do, like we're ultimately making that happen in minutes. We're trying to let AI inform what leads you should be spending time on
Yeah.
based on data in the system. And, like you probably know better, Joe, like how many leads are you getting?
Welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. I'm very excited to have my friend Bobby Spence here with Aline. Bobby, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me.
Thanks for having me, Joe. It's good to see you.
So, Bobby, I know Aline has the CRM, and the CRM's got to have a ton of data. When we take a look at different salespeople and marketing people and CEOs, everybody thinks they've got their own opinions on what's going on with the organization. But of course, what you guys are really focusing in on right now, apart from making it easier for sales and marketing to better understand what's going on, is that data. So, want to get your opinions. Like, what's changing right now in the world of Align?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on at Align. I think I'm maybe for me, I'm learning a lot right now. I've been in the role for about 4 months. So I learn something new every day. Yeah, CRM. I mean, we call CRM kind of our flagship product.
Yeah,
It's interesting. I think the how Align came to be was, three separate companies coming together, Sherpa, Glennis, and Inquire. And so I think a lot of what I understand from the market is a lot of people don't know our origin story. So there's a little bit of like, I've heard Align does this and that, but I'm not really like clear on what products you offer outside of CRM. And so um, I think for us, a lot of what we're trying to do is just educate the market on what Align's bringing to the table across
right.
our full product suite. Because those three companies came together, we had made a few acquisitions since then with Rubric, our survey and chat product,
Yeah,
Vitals, which is more of a leasing and billing product. Um, and so, you're probably not addressing the change. I think a lot of what we're trying to do is just inform the market of what's going on. I think from a CRM perspective, there's always features and functions that you're trying to add based on market feedback, right? Customer feedback. Um, we are doing a lot from an AI perspective, which we could obviously talk about.
sure.
Um, there's been an interesting perspective, I think, in the market. Some operators are really excited about it, others are a bit scared about it, which I'm sure you get exposed to. But I,
Yeah,
I think I think for me, what's really exciting about Align is yes, we have CRM, um, but we also have a leasing and billing product, a clinical product. We have a menus and point of sale product from a dining perspective. Um, and so I think we're in a really unique position with the full product suite that we have um, to kind of inform operators um, of where they're winning and where they're not winning. And maybe this is just like a perspective that I've seen is there's so many point solutions and there's a lot of integrations kind of in
right.
this world. And so for me, I'm trying to, I don't know, analyze that and figure out how does Align better serve the market, just knowing that that's kind of just the reality of it.
Yeah, for sure. Bobby, you'd mentioned a little bit about market feedback. Let's jump into that really quick. What feedback are you getting right now from the market? Because obviously, like you said, you've got the leasing and billing, the point of sale system, you've got all of these different elements. But what type of feedback do you generally get from the market on the all-encompassing, call it the Align portfolio?
Yeah, I think a lot of the feedback is how is Align bringing all of that together? Like,
Right.
and when will it be together?
Yeah.
Um, the reality is we do have a few like full suite customers, which is great because we have like real life examples and operators that were, evaluating the bringing it together, right? And making sure we're doing it the right way. Um, and so I think a lot of the feedback we're getting is how does that make a line better serve the operator and why would we want to dig in kind of across the full suite? I think the reality is that's like a new thing. It's a new idea, right?
Sure.
And so um I also like we get a ton of feedback on the CRM, every week of like, hey, you can do this to kind of give us better insights on occupancy
Sure.
and how our salespeople are performing. And so we're always getting that type of feedback. I think what and you take that feedback and you evaluate it and you modify the product how you need to. Um, but I think for us, it's at least the vision of the company is to kind of bring it all together across this full product suite. And so that's I would say that's we got to take care of our customers and um, maintain and support the point solutions that we have while we figure out like how do we bring it together in a way that makes sense for the operator and drives
Yeah.
value.
One thing that I absolutely love about your organization is your know your audience challenge, or your know your industry challenge, or the various different know your X challenge. Maybe not know your X, but anyways,
Want to know
but
your ex?
yeah, I don't want to know your X anymore. Maybe, but anyways, the know your industry challenge. One thing that I noticed when I was at the Align conference back in Frisco, when was that? April-ish?
It was May 11th through the 13th.
May, yeah. So one thing that I really appreciated about that Know Your Industry Challenge is kind of the stats that were coming out. So talking about, as an example, one thing that's like very top of mind for me, being a marketing agency guy, is knowing a little bit about the independent living search volume versus the assisted living search volume versus the memory care search volume and aspects like that. And they were talking about how the memory care search volume has decreased, the assisted living search volume has decreased, but independent living is getting much more robust, and kind of the understanding behind the baby boomers moving into the industry and maybe being a little bit more proactive about what they're searching for and things like that. What type of statistics, apart from the one that I just mentioned, are you guys really focusing in on right now to better understand how to help build up your programs and your products to better support the industry?
Yeah, yeah. I think your example is a good one because
Mhm.
obviously you want to know where are people trying to find these operators and what are they interested in, right? Because ultimately that's where you should focus your time and effort from a sales and marketing perspective. I think occupancy obviously is critical, but that's more of kind of an internal operational thing.
Mhm.
Obviously, what you talk about feeds into it. I think occupancy comes to mind, and I think that varies based on the type of operator, and where they're located and all of that stuff. I think the one thing that we keep hearing from operators we've heard it here and there, but the reality is like me being new to the industry and coming from like I came from fuel and convenience, so petroleum and convenience, so gas stations and convenience
Yeah,
stores, so in software. And so we had a full suite of kind of software servicing that market globally. One thing that they focused on, and it was like the key metric that they focused on was lifetime value of a customer.
of course.
So and so not uh, what I hear kind of in this world is like once you get them to move in, like that's a key metric, right? Like that deposit, that initial deposit. But um, we have been hearing a little bit of like, what's the value of that customer over time,
Mhm.
right? And it's nothing that I really see like top of mind. Like if we look at our like CRM widget dashboard of like what are the key metrics that you're tracking? Um, Lifetime value is something that we've heard feedback on that we're trying to figure out how can we help operators solve because obviously in the continuum you know this well, Joe, like yes, a move-in's important, but how long are you keeping them? Are they bouncing from an IL to an AL to a memory care back to AL? Like what is the lifetime value? And ultimately you want to retain that customer wherever kind of they end up, right, towards that kind of end of life. And so I think I think the one thing that we're hearing more and more is like, yes, I want to understand move-ins, but how do I kind of evaluate that resident over the lifetime of my relationship with them? Which is really what, like on the fuel and convenience side, if you shop a convenience store, you're probably going to competitors, but you're coming back and like, how do you kind of look at CAC, like cost per acquiring, right? Not just to move in, but like to the end of the relationship. And so we're actually we've moved all of our data into Snowflake, um, to kind of get all of our data into one place, one source of truth, to kind of start looking at things like that to better inform operators. So that to me is like one thing that we think we could do a better job of informing the operator to ultimately drive better NOI, right?
Oh yeah, and absolutely. That's the same thing from a marketing perspective. We obviously are very, very intent on analyzing as well. I want to know the full multi-touch attribution, and meaning every single touch that an individual has taken in the marketing funnel before they enter into the sales funnel, before they end up moving in, so that I can figure out exactly what that cost per acquisition was from a marketing standpoint. And then once they're actually in the community, it's like, okay, sure, do they have a an initial buy-in? Are they now on a monthly rental type of agreement? I always say monthly recurring revenue. I like to try to put it a little bit more in the personal aspect, monthly rental spend, right?
Yeah.
But then if you take a look at, Bobby Spence moved into the community, and Bobby Spence spends $5,000 a month over 12 months. That's $60,000, and it costs $2,200 to get Bobby to move in. Sure. And then at what point does that actually become profitable? Because people will take that investment all day long if they can get 60 grand out of it, right? But at what point, in terms of your overheads and all those other elements, does that exist within? And without good data coming through from an organization like Align, it makes everything more difficult from a marketing standpoint to a sales standpoint to understanding your overhead. And you mentioned NOI and all those different elements. It's like, how do we ensure that we are getting the best bang for our buck? And if an individual, to your point, is moving into independent living, they can then move through to assisted living and then memory care and so forth and so on, move throughout those levels of care. And if they're living in the community for 3 months, as an example, yeah, that's not ideal, right? But if they can end up living in the community for a couple of years and continue to build up their relationships and things like that, maybe even bring other individuals in and things like that, obviously your return on investment is going to be a lot higher, right? So yeah, I'm completely aligned with all of that. So
Is
sorry, go
Joe,
ahead.
is that no, I was just thinking like, is that when you think of citizen and
Mhm.
kind of what you're offering to them, like, is that something that you got, like, are operators looking to you to kind of do that calculation of by
Absolutely.
channel? Okay, okay,
Absolutely, yeah.
full resident journey or resident relationship with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're using partners like Active Demand or Further or HubSpot or organizations like that to support us in that automation component, so that we can track everything through, and then track it back. But at the end of the day, without organizations like yours being able to state, yeah, this is how much money people are spending, this is how long they've been in the community, and even more than that, from an aligned perspective, we're able to get data like, as an example, the zip codes that the individual actually moved in from, which is then going to help us refine our marketing strategies and optimize our campaigns to get better data so that we can pinpoint exactly where people are moving in from and then adjust, which is kind of rad, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the flip side, what are things like that you guys are seeing on the aligned standpoint that you believe can support the sales and marketing stuff that maybe we haven't seen before? Call it, the last, I recognize you've been with the organization for 4 months, but what stuff that you get really excited about with your expertise?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I've kind of seen and I'm learning is the shopping aspect of, hey, I'm starting to look at moving into an IL, AL, whatever it may be. Like I'm at that point where it's the right move for me. Um, I'm kind of interested in like how are operators differentiating themselves in the sales process, which I think you could probably provide a lot of
Yeah.
input on because there's obviously brand. I think there's experience like referrals. Like if you know somebody there, like that's one thing I really haven't got my head around, albeit I've met with some operators and visited some communities that are like, you get a good ED or a good salesperson, like in a nice looking community, like that sets you apart, right? And I think there's that relationship. Um, so anyway, like I think I have work to do there on figuring out how they differentiate themselves. One of the things that comes to mind for like what Align is bringing to the market is our contact center and then our Align Connect
Right.
solution. And so I think, Joe, you're familiar with this, but
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
within the CRM, um, we have Align Connect, which allows for up to 20 touch points over a certain period of time. And that can be call, text, email, kind of whatever. Like if you have a methodology that you feel works best, right? We can collaborate with you. We can give you best practices, but in essence, Align Connect sets up those touch points immediately so that that kind of speed to lead, speed to engaging the lead, you're quick to it and you're not delayed and you're getting to the individual when they want you to get to them.
Mhm.
But you're also like what one of the things that we've looked at is it typically takes 7 to 8 touches to actually get to a lead.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And so that's good. It's good. You can validate that. But like Align Connect, like I think one thing I have seen certain operators, like you don't have 10 salespeople at a community, like just sitting waiting, and you're focusing on the resident to create a relationship. So I think Align Connect, like the reality is there are operators using it today, but I think we have a huge opportunity because everybody that I talk to from an operator standpoint are like, oh, wait, walk me through this. Like there's almost just like we need to inform the market of what it is and see if it fits, right?
Exactly.
The other the other thing maybe to go along with that, Joe, which I'll just mention is we have this contact center solution where we have live agents that'll actually make calls. Um, they can cover you just off hours on the weekends, right? So they complement your team. It's not like we're taking your team out of it. So there's multiple ways we could set it up based on the operator. Um, but but I do feel like this it seems to me that I'm interested. I'm going to look at communities in my area. It's so critical. You obviously got to get to them with the right message and handle it the right way, not be too salesy, like really
Gotta be
care about the
authentic.
resident relation. You got to be authentic.
Be
But I think
authentic.
we have some solutions that I'm kind of like, one, have we made all of our operators aware of what we're doing here?
Right.
The data that we've seen, and then ultimately, like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. But like, let's just make sure they're aware of it and see if there's a way we can test something. Because we've seen some really good data that ultimately says you get more tours and you get move-ins, get more move-ins. So that comes to mind.
And it's interesting too. You mentioned speed to lead, and the classic saying is time kills deals, right? And so I believe, and this might be an older stat, but I believe I was in a sales summit for one of our organizations that also works with your organization, and they were talking about um, the I'm going to call it the call center. Help me out. What's it called again?
Contact center.
The contact center. Okay, the call center, contact center. Thanks. And they said that the average individual, it takes 19 hours for them to actually get a contact throughout senior housing in general. 19 hours after they make their initial inquiry to actually end up getting connected. Um, Again, that's a crazy average. And my understanding is you lose like something like 60% of your deals if you haven't reached out within the first half hour because other organizations are, right? And so if you take a look at that pinpoint there, and then you talk about like the importance of a contact center or even just a drip campaign, something that basically puts your brand in front of them within that first hour, if you will, like the difference that can make. And yeah, with 19 hours, like that's, don't get me wrong, 19 hours seems like nothing if you're just like thinking like, oh, I'm going to respond to an email, or something like that. Like 19 hours can go so quick. But that individual is reaching out to 3, 4, 5, sometimes more senior living communities, and if they can't book that tour instantly, like they're not touring 15 different communities, they're touring maybe 3, and then they're making their decision, right? So it kills the deal, right?
Right. And I'd be very one, there's an operator who just uses us off hours and on weekends.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like that is an example. Like forget 9 to 5 every day. Like like it just would make a ton of sense to me that you got to have some coverage. That to me is very complementary kind of to the general operating ecosystem. And so I will tell you, I mean, we've integrated some AI too, as far as like text and virtual calls, like a virtual sales assistant. There's been some interesting feedback on that of just like
Tell me
it,
about that.
well, no, I mean it's I don't know, in my old world, like fuel and convenience, I'll call it like the customer relationship wasn't as emotional.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
it's
like,
like,
I
hey,
need gas and you're nearby. Yeah.
yeah, and you're nearby, and I don't really like, I don't want you to bother me. I just want to fill up and
Yeah.
quit putting things on the prompt, quit advertising to me, and it's a whole different deal. But I think that idea of like the emotional relationship with a resident, like technology getting in the way is like that feels weird. That doesn't feel like um, the typical operator resident relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but I do, um, which I like. I see that, right? It's like you want them talking to your ED or your sales director. You don't want them talking to a robot, right? That
No.
just doesn't feel genuine. And
Yeah.
so I think that's been the perspective a little bit is like, hey, that personal touch is really important to us as an operator and to our brand, right? Um,
And it's funny that you say that because even to take that a step further, like it's very important for our operator going to the prospective resident. But even as a B2B organization like Citizen or Align, it's still so important when you're actually discussing with potential prospects or clients for our organizations as well. Like it extends to us because I think that we expect in our industry a relationship based relationship, right? Like, we're not selling cars or gas or something like that where it's like a transaction, then you're never going to see the salesperson again. They're expecting that they're going to get to know the ED because they're going to see the ED every single day in the community, and that relationship is so important. I was chatting with one of the organizations that we support, and the way that they booked the tour, the way that, and not just booked the tour, but the way that they have the tour experience is next level. And I absolutely love it. So one of the things that they do is they'll have, I'm gonna use you as our example, Bobby. You're gonna be our resident. You're gonna walk through, and I'm gonna start my discovery the way that you would have your discovery with any other senior living organization. But as they have that discovery, they're documenting a couple of things. So, Bobby, tell me, like, what do you like to do for fun? Oh, you might be a whiskey and cigar guy. Let's just use that as the example. You're a whiskey and cigar guy. Okay, great. Bobby, that's awesome. What's your favorite type? I don't know anything about cigars, so I'm just going to pretend. I like, I don't know, Cubans. I don't know what people like. You probably can't get Cubans anyways. But anyways, I probably should have used whiskey as a better example. I like Jack Daniels. Great. I love that. Okay, cool. So then as we're basically going through, because you've mentioned this, I know that there's going to be certain things about the community that you're going to want to see, and then stuff that's going to be really important. Here's the back patio. Here's where a lot of the gentlemen from the community like to have, a glass of whiskey and so forth and so on. And then they can kind of tour and do that kind of stuff. And then as they're doing things that like the person gets really excited about, then they have an opportunity where they're like, you know what, Bobby, let's take a picture of you and your family really quickly in this little area. So they snap a quick photo. Lovely. At the very end, they've taken note of all these different things. And then as you're basically leaving the community, you're getting handed a framed photograph of you and your family at that spot because they've quickly sent that off. They've printed it off. They've got the frame. Somebody brings in a bottle of Jack Daniels in a whiskey glass and it's got inscribed on it with like the name of the community or whatever else. Just like these extra elements where it's like, how were you able to pull this together in an hour? Well, it's because we've got people on standby ready to do things and get you excited about things, right? And like it's about really personalizing that experience. But to take that point and the authenticity of basically the importance of all of that, if you're not authentic in the initial conversations, with your contact center and different elements like that, if you're not building up that authenticity and it's AI generated, you're missing out on a huge component of that sales cycle, right? And so like it just kind of adds to the entire experience. It's kind of like when we talk about the marketing standpoint and we talk about the sales standpoint and whatever else. If your website doesn't represent the quality of your organization, people aren't going to necessarily want to come through to your community because they're not getting a good feeling from the brand the minute they walk through. And then when they actually call the community or call the contact center or whatever else, if they can't necessarily have those genuine conversations and understand the feelings and understand the individual, they're not going to necessarily have that same experience. And then when they come through to the tour, it's the entire journey that we have to take care of, right? There's no element that can be, I shouldn't say there's no element that can't be automated. There's definitely pieces that can be automated, but you can't lose the authenticity.
that's right. And I think it's funny you like the analogy to like, Citizen selling to operators or a line selling to
Sure.
operators. It does come back to like you can't have an AI agent do a full sale with an operator and
No.
talk about your product and the value of your product. So I think like this world is still, and then the software world, it's still a relationship world. You got to do what you say you're going to do. You got to take care of the customer. You got to add value to their business. I mean, it's like it's a good analogy. There's AI helps us, I think, in our business processes and automation and reporting
Yeah.
and all that stuff, but there's still that personal touch. I think on the one of the things we heard, because we do have on the contact center, we do have AI agents.
Yeah.
Um, and there's been initially there was like, hey, no, we need live people.
Yeah.
One of the things we've done to like back to your point of like getting like if somebody creates an inbound request, hey, I'm interested in moving in, please reach out to me. Um, and this is kind of that complementing the personal touch just to get to them quickly when you don't have staff. We do say, hey, this is Joe. I'm a virtual sales assistant calling on behalf of so and so community. So you're still talking and like creating continuity with the community. We appreciate your interest. Would now be a good time to talk so I can hand you off to our head of sales. And so like it's to your point, it's like I think AI can help in getting
Yeah.
in front of the customer at the right time, but you can still keep the personal touch of, no, no,
Exactly.
no, we're not like, well, AI can play the part. They can play a little part to get you in front of the right, but they're not going to take over what your sales and ED directors and your ED people do. Like it's just not going to happen, right?
And it exists in our organization too. Our slogan or tagline, if you want to call it that, is human powered expert results. Human powered because that authenticity, the component, that stuff is so important. The relationship is with a human being, so forth and so on. We're a digital marketing agency. We use AI for things, right? Like we're going to be using AI to adjust pictures based on like the sizing and things like that. But we know that the imagery that we're utilizing in our or the pictures that we're utilizing in our marketing needs to be authentic, and pictures of residents work best. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to adjust lighting or adjust sizing or do different things like that utilizing AI to support those elements. It just means that we need to make sure that authenticity remains clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I
100%.
absolutely love that. So let's talk a little bit more about the AI perspective for what you guys are kind of have coming down the pipe, because obviously, you're a large organization with many different facets. Like, how are you streamlining those pieces with AI internally?
Yeah, it's not easy, I would just generally say, because I think we want to operate as a business more efficiently. And I think AI can do that, but I think you got to be like disciplined and structured in how you kind of implement it throughout. Like if you think about our just, we have 6 or 7 products across kind of different, we'll call it like we call it neighborhoods, but whether it's CRM, leasing and billing, clinical. One of the things that we've done is just integrated AR into our software development,
That's sweet.
which is huge. And
Yeah.
like that's not like I mean, most SaaS companies in most industries are moving that direction. I think considering the origin story of Align, like, this wasn't one company who built all these products together, right? Like we acquired multiple companies with I'll call it different code bases. And so we're
Well, that
being
would be more
smart.
Glennis's MO, right? Would be the AR piece. Am I wrong?
You mean account, billing side of it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
makes sense.
Yeah. I think in general, like I think we can get more, we can produce more feature functions across our product suite, leveraging AI. And so we're on that journey. I think the early read is like we're doing more faster, um, which generally makes sense. But I think
Sure.
we're on some legacy code bases, so I think you have to be careful about that. And so, like I was going to call it bug rates, but like, you get into this new kind of path. there's bugs that happen. Like how do you train the AI to be smarter so you're avoiding those mistakes in the future? So I think from a development perspective, like that's been a whole track that obviously our CTO, head of product and engineering, are focused on just getting better there. Um, I think the CRM specifically, we talked about contact center and Align Connect. Um, like wait lists and resident lists of prioritizing quality residents based on characteristics and who's moved in. Like I think we're trying to let AI inform what leads you should be spending time on
Yeah.
based on data in the system. And like you probably know better, Joe, like how many leads are you getting per community per month? Like it seems to me like that would be really helpful to, hey, prioritize my top 5 to 10 based on their clinical grid and their characteristics and what they're looking for based on kind of my community and the fit for me of
Yeah.
what I'm looking for. Um,
It takes lead scoring to a whole other level, right? Like if you can pinpoint those elements. Now, the interesting thing about lead scoring, the way that we traditionally do lead scoring traditionally, like it's ancient, but it's not that ancient, um, is based on like how many times they're actually interacting with a brand, right? Whereas what you're basically able to pull in now, it's like, okay, we've interacted with the brand, we know the details of this, the quality score of that lead, which is different from quality score and PPC standpoints and all that other stuff, anyways. But the quality score of that lead that you actually have in the CRM, based on information that you've been able to bring through, it now, if you if you score all of your leads into sales qualified leads and marketing qualified leads, now it's basically like these are all sales qualified leads. Now let's score them against each other, which even gets you more refined data to be able to say these are the ones that we definitely need to be heavily focused in on, which is kind of rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I again, I'm learning here, but like who are I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it, but at least on the assisted living side and memory care side, if you have a clinical grid and there's certain patients conditions that you can't care for, things like that, like you're almost disqualifying quickly, right? Like that's better than like how do you just become smarter? And again, like I think just general lead scoring to me with all the data that we have in the CRM,
Yeah.
um, AI can definitely help with. Um, just make you focus on the right people. Like that's pretty simple to me. The other thing that we've launched and we actually have an active pilot going is we on our skilled nursing instance of CRM. So we have what we call like smart referral CRM, which is focused on skilled nursing. And this is just like an interesting the type of care. What I've learned quickly is like type of care really matters, right?
Right.
And like the whole sales and marketing process for skilled nursing, there's not really that, right? It's like
Drastically
referrals
different. You may need,
drastically.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, it's this kind of like speed to lead thing a little bit, but for our smart referral CRM, which is focused on skilled nursing, we call it AIM, Align Intake Manager. We're leveraging AI to take in referrals, summarize that data, and then ultimately in like less than 2 minutes, give you a recommendation in the system whether you should accept or reject that particular referral based on your clinical grid, based on, the financial considerations, how they pay and things like that. And so, and then we have insurance eligibility checks, sex offender checks, like all the standard things that I think what I've heard have taken a ton of time, like for an individual to do, like we're ultimately making that happen in minutes. Um, I'm pretty excited about that because the early feedback is very positive. Not that you won't have bugs or things that you got to figure out, but extremely excited about that.
Well, that's so cool because it just adds to that speed to lead piece in a way. Like you've got these people basically ready to move in, but then all of a sudden you have to let them sit back for a couple of days and wait for that information to come through, even though they know that they're on the level, right? They're kind of just like, okay, I'm waiting for all this kind of stuff. And for your organization, or I should say for your operators now, they're basically able to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to set that stuff up. We're going to have a couple more conversations about various different things. It all comes back. You're good to go. It's basically like a credit check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
All
rad. It's
happening on
like,
the back end.
yeah, it's like it's so sweet. Bobby, thank you so much for being on Cup of Joe. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and over the last 4 months as well, and learning a little bit more about what Align is doing and everything like that. And yeah, it's just always great going back and forth. Bobby, for our viewers at home or at their offices or wherever they may be, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it. I always enjoy the conversation for sure. So thank you for that. Yeah. So, alineops.com is our website. You can find me on LinkedIn, Bobby Spence. My email is bobby.spence@alineops.com. Um, so yeah, shoot me a note. I'd love to learn more about, you and, if there's a way that you think Align can provide value to your business or address a challenge or a pain point, like that's what we're all about. And so, thanks for having me,
Of
and I
course, love
appreciate it
that.
for sure.
And of course, everybody here, I think probably at this point knows how to get in touch with me. My cell, 403-903-3703, or our website, ctznpartners.com. Thank you so much for watching.